Hi, I'm Dorrian Aiken and I coach, I consult and I teach on the theories of leadership, but particularly the practice of good leadership. How behavior impacts the well-being or not on people's lives and their effectiveness in the workplace. A leader who obviously has the technical skills to do the job, but much more than the technical skills, they need to have relational skills. Because if you want to inspire people, not just to be with you during the good times, but to dance with you when you're in a crisis, you need to be able to relate well. And that doesn't mean a soft option, making everybody feel sweet and loved. It's actually quite hard-nosed, it's quite bounded. But it's giving people the sense of appreciation. I know you can think well. We employed you because we know you can think well. And then giving them the opportunity to think well. How do you become that kind of leader? You need to start with yourself. So that's where the concept of mindfulness comes in. And it's good to know that at the moment, mindfulness, it might be a bit of a buzzword, but I think it's here to stay for, in the West at any rate, having been such a big thing coming from the East. Mindfulness is not the same as no mind, the meditational state. Mindfulness is the conscious ability to be aware in the moment. So starting with me, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? What do I normally do when I feel like this? What do I need to change to do this better? Firstly, a person needs to be aware that this isn't helpful. They have a knee-jerk reaction, they're quick to respond, and it's a put-down or a negative criticism of someone. What they really need to know is what it does to the limbic brain of that other person. It literally stops their ability to think well, which is the last thing you want to happen when you want your team to be functioning at the highest possible level. So why does that happen? Neuroscience is the most amazing kind of evidence that we have now of the impact that we have on one another. It's so connected. So if I say to you, but why are you so doof? Yeah. What happens to you is your ability to think well shuts down because the blood flow that you need to the part of the brain that is responsible for logical thinking floods instead into the fight or flight part of the brain, which says, I can't bear this. Run, faint. So it's really important for a leader to be able to say, in the moment when you think somebody's idea is doof, that's an interesting thought. I'm wondering how you got to that. And if you're interested, I think we could have this discussion and take it to a new level. Something like that. Something that isn't a put down, but an encouragement. It gets to the same result. It may take the leader a little longer and be more frustrating for someone who's driven, but that's what it takes. Unless you already are, to some degree, self-aware, you need external help. If you're becoming aware of my natural style isn't helpful, I'm getting that feedback from 360s or whatever, get a good coach, get a good therapist perhaps, but probably a coach who can help you change behaviors in the moment. Because what you need is an understanding in the moment, I did it again. That's what I do. So it's not about judgment of yourself. I'm so bad. It's about getting curious, which is quite the opposite of judgment. Judgment stops your ability to think creatively through the moment. Curiosity opens up an invitation to think differently. So a coach can help someone do that by saying, okay, what did you notice? Why do you think that happens for you? Because a leader is so driving because of their fear of failure, because they have a huge amount at stake in being profitable and doing well, in competing in a world that's getting tougher and tougher, unpredictable. So that drives a lot of leaders' behaviors, is get it right, guys. But how you bring people with you is the magic. So getting help with understanding that a knee-jerk reaction is at the low end of your emotional intelligence. We need to put a break between our knee-jerk reaction and the awareness of how do I include you in a way that makes you feel encouraged and interested in thinking differently. Well, what people didn't know before, in a lot of the leadership advice that was round and about, is exactly what happens in the brain. So we know that we can't separate emotions from our ability to think well. In fact, if you're feeling bad, you can't think well. And that is the research that we have. So we know that it's visible in fMRI scans that when people believe in themselves and are given the opportunity to be confident, their pattern changes. Their blood flow, what the neurochemicals and hormones show up in the blood, what they are, actually changes. So it wasn't easy we didn't have that evidence 20, 30 years ago. So the idea was you come in with your cognitive intelligence, you put your emotions aside and you do the job. Yes, that works up to a point, but it stops being effective when people's feelings are negative. It shouldn't be only for leaders and managers. Mindfulness should be something that you encourage for everybody, from the tea person to the top. The more mindful you are, the more you carry awareness in the moment, not only of yourself, but imagine the benefit to the company when people are mindful in the moment and observant. Mindfulness is a state of constant awareness. So you're picking up more information. And again, it's not just about yourself, it's what's going on in the environment. So if you are unmindful and just muddling along, what are you missing? So mindfulness practice is a brilliant thing for corporates to do for their staff, not just for the leader. There are practices that people can do consciously to increase their emotional intelligence. In my research, we think of 6 lines of intelligence that we can cultivate consciously. That is, any normal functioning adult, an adult who's not brain damaged, can consciously focus on increasing their awareness on these intelligences. So one is cognitive intelligence, and you increase that by research, by engagement with other people with new ideas, by constantly expanding your ability to know more, hold more perspective, okay, and think into the future, a future that doesn't even exist. That's the cognitive line. Most of us can do that. The emotional line of intelligence in this work is simply about your ability to have care and concern, and this is where self-awareness really matters. If your care and concern is at the egocentric level, it's all about me. What I want and what I need from you, and you better do it. That's how it is. And we have leaders who behave like that we can identify right now. This is where we all have to start. Toddlers are, I want that now. I want that ice cream, and if you don't give it to me, I'm going to scream. We grow through that to the next level of emotional intelligence, which is sociocentric, me and my tribe. I care for you and me together, but not them, the other. It's a big problem in the world today. But if we are going to run companies at an international level, if we're going to manage our staff at the richness of diversity that we have, we need to know how to manage sociocentric intelligence better than we do, to be more inclusive. And then the final goal for us as leaders in particular is how do you cultivate world-centric intelligence? That's the ability to sit down with care and concern for me, my tribe, and my enemy. Care and concern. I know that it's a hard ask for me. It's a practice. It's a deliberate practice of how do I do this well. And imagine what you achieve when you can sit down with me, my tribe, and my enemy with care and concern. So that's 2 of the lines of intelligence. A third is interpersonal. How do we treat people who are different from us? The low end is, I want to employ everybody in my own image, eat like me, dress like me, speak like me, think like me, and we'll get on great. Most people achieve the middle stage of interpersonal intelligence, which is I can handle difference, but don't be too hectic. And the upper level of world-centric, or of the high end of interpersonal intelligence, is the ability to have an open-hearted curiosity about difference, even when it's something that doesn't appeal to me. It's the embracing of it in such a way that that person is seen, heard, and appreciated. Then there's physical intelligence. Now, a hell of a lot of good CEOs and people generally get up and do their fitness training, some 5 o'clock in the morning. That helps them with focus, with mindfulness. The more you are aware of yourself in the moment as you train, rather than letting your mind fly everywhere, thoughts fly everywhere, what Buddhists call monkey mind. When you're training, running, cycling, whatever, what am I aware of? How does the wind feel on my skin? What am I noticing? What's the light like? How am I feeling? What's my breathing? That awareness in the moment is exquisite. And the fitter you are, the more physically aware you are, the greater your emotional, spiritual, and intellectual awareness becomes too. So that physical awareness, that physical intelligence, is like the open sesame to all the intelligences. Then there's moral intelligence. The low end is catch me if you can. The middle range is, well, I'd like to break the rules, but if we all did that, where would we be? The high end is quite a lonely place for leaders quite often, because it's a decision, and this is not my quote, this is a quote from Ken Wilber's work, one of our greatest living philosophers, the decision to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people, preserving all the value in the chain. So the greatest good for the greatest number in a company would be from the T person to the top. How am I ensuring the greatest good for the greatest number? So Ken Wilber was asked once by a Buddhist journalist, you believe in the protection of all sentient life, the greatest good for all? He said, yes, of course I do. The Buddhist journalist said, so what would you do if you're confronted by Hitler? Wilber didn't hesitate. He said, you take him out. The Buddhist journalist said, well, that's a bit hypocritical, isn't it, if you value all sentient life? Wilber said, to do the greatest good for the greatest number, you need to take out the obstacle and let the greatest good flow. And then the final intelligence that we can consciously work on is our spiritual intelligence, which isn't about religion. At the lower end, it's fundamentalist. What I believe and what my people believe is the way, and anybody else is not even properly human. We've got that in the world. Most people get to, well, this is what makes life meaningful for me, but don't try and convince me about your way. At the high end, it's a magnificent sense of deep embodiment around the fact that we are connected. Not just us as human beings, me, the trees, the bees, the universe, everything is connected and affects one another. And we're moving there. We can see that intelligence emerging in the world right now. When you get someone like Greta Thunberg at the age of 16 taking the stand she has, it's evidence of an emergent line of intelligence that says, get with it, we are connected. If leaders understand that and work on the connectedness that they can build through positive engagement in their companies, how stunning would that be? They change people's lives, not just in the workplace, but have an impact on those people in their communities as well.